The meeting of the North Carolina Appraisal Board to order on December the 12th at 9:04 a.m. I'd like to start with the conflict of interest reminder. In accordance with the State Governance Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of conflict. Board members are directed to identify any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the board at this meeting and to refrain from any undue participation in that particular matter of thought. Does any board member know of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board at this time? Okay. So, no. At this point, I'd like to ask Sarah, Ms. Burns, to read the mission statement.
The mission of the North Carolina Appraisal Board is to protect consumers of real estate services provided by its licensees by assuring that these licensees are sufficiently trained and tested to assure competency and independent judgment. In addition, the board will protect the public interest by enforcing state law and appraisal board rules to assure that its licensees act in accordance with professional standards and ethics. The North Carolina Appraisal Board believes that the appraisal profession should reflect the diversity of our state. To further this mission, the board is dedicated to expanding diversity and inclusivity in the profession by removing barriers that limit the opportunities of any qualified individual to become an appraiser.
Thank you. Just to start the meeting, before we approve the agenda, I just want to bring everybody up to speed on the two appointments made by the speaker. The appointments made by the speaker this year have brought to question whether they are within their statute, and we questioned the speaker's office, which we've got a response, and at this point we have also questioned, asked for an advisory opinion from the Attorney General's office, and we're waiting on that advisory opinion. Until then, the appointments that were there will continue as carryover appointments, and hopefully we'll have something resolved soon. So, also, NCOAA has sent a letter to all the board members. If any of the board members did not get that or receive that letter, please ask Don, and he'll make sure you receive it. So, at this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to consider approving the agenda with items taken in any order determined by the chair.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, have a second. Ms. Albright, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, does anybody have any questions? Clarifications? If not, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Okay. Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And let's go to finance.
Before we move to finance, just take 1 minute. We introduced our new investigator on the Zoom call last time, but Frank Fleming is our new investigator, and this is his first live meeting, and promised him we wouldn't have to testify if he sat in the witness chair. We'll consider if there's a better format to go with in the future, but I think this will work for the day. So, looking at your financial statements, you have a profit and loss for ending November the 30th. Not a whole lot of interest to point out other than we are running a little behind on didn't have quite as many renewals as we estimated, and we're lagging behind in application fees. That said, we are still getting a good number of applications. It's just not at the pace we were getting during COVID. So they've not died away completely. If anybody tells you nobody else is getting into the profession, that's not really the case. We're still getting a tremendous number of reciprocal applications from people coming in from other states, either moving here or just expanding their practice if they're generally in commercial business to North Carolina. So just to point those out. Just one note, and I'll talk about it a little more in the staff report. You see the USPAP income, and then next month you'll see the expenses. But it was a net cost to the board of about $50,000 for the USPAP books. So we took in about $32,000 and spent about mid-80s. So we'll have that specific number. So it's just a little over 50,000. So that won't be quite as much of a cost as we had estimated. I think the net estimate is going to be about 87,000. Any other questions about?
Any questions? We can proceed on to legal. Also. I'll go ahead and go around the room and see if anybody has any questions. Mr. Morgan?
I have no questions.
Ms. Alvarez?
No questions.
Mr. Day?
None.
Ms. Arnold?
None.
Ms. Howard? Ms. Coleman? All right.
Just one correction that we noticed after the vote went out. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now, Ken.
One correction, it's page 17, your probable cause signs, the second to last paragraph. Sorry, which begins comparable sale number 4, and the last listing describes, it's supposed to be, let's say comparable sale number 2. So let's say comparable sale number 2 falls within a C2 reading in the last paragraph. Yeah. Oh, you should say comp 4, I'm sorry, in the last sentence. Is that right? Do I have that right now? Okay, so you say comp 4 in the last sentence. That's the question.
The last sentence of that paragraph.
Yes, instead of comp 2, it should say comp 4. Sorry, mine. Instead of negative.
Is that the only correction?
That's it.
Does anybody have any questions with that added? All right. Well, then I'll entertain a motion to accept staff recommendations on the cases presented. Alvarez? Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Move on to the pending hearing report.
Instead, we have the pending hearing report. We're reading several of those through consent orders during executive session a little later. Just point out for clarity, the last one there that appears to be rather old is one that you heard in September, I believe it was, the last live meeting, and it had just not been closed out of the system because we were getting service to the individual. We couldn't take certified mail, so we had to use FedEx, and so now that one is closed, so that one's no longer on the list. And he had, that individual, as you may recall, had not renewed his certification in June, so he's not been practicing it. Didn't use that time. Or not legally.
Let's hope not.
And then, disciplinary action year to date, you can see, we've had 126 cases through, November, which is just a little more than where we were last year, so we're going to be a little higher. But again, the large number of GSE complaints we've had, we really haven't had as much in the traditional complaint departments, as more in the GSE. So, we get swimming up to speed here, and I think we'll start to see that number shrink pretty fast. I'll talk about our ASC visit in a little bit, but we were able to be within total compliance in terms of age of cases. So I know sometimes the list looks a little long, but we are managing them, and they really gave us kudos for managing COVID without being behind.
Chairman, a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's regarding the GSE complaints. It seems like, the number of complaints have been increasing since I've been here at the GSEs. And I've had several appraisers reach out to me expressing concern about them. Can you shed some light on that, or give an update on what's going on with these?
The one thing I can say, and I'll let Randy speak up if there's anything else, is early on we saw a lot of complaints that seemed to be, you can see areas that are difficult to appraise, kind of rural areas, things like that, and it would, like comp selection or adjustment size and things would fall out of what would be the normal guidelines of what they would like to see, and I'm sure they were running them through an automated process that, and if they were falling outside of those parameters, I think we were getting pinged and get some letter with these kind of possible defaults. And so we were seeing a lot that were like, when you really look at it and you say, well, this was the comps that were available, this is what he did, probably the best available. As we've seen them increase, we've also seen the validity of a lot of them increase. So we're seeing more issues that now still may not be enough to where you could revoke or suspend somebody. It might just be re-education, but they are more legitimate concerns. So I think their process seems to have improved some. Randy, is there anything else? She opens them, so.
No, there is a little bit more information we're able to ascertain from those when they come in, besides just the initial commentary on the actual complaint. So that's been helping a lot in being able to find what their real issue is whenever they send it over to us.
Any questions? We'll move on to licensing and education.
So as you see here, the applications that have come in since your last live meeting. So we are still getting a good number of units in the September, October, and November months. But as you see, there's not that long list of trainees in every one of these lists as there was in the past. So I think that's I didn't run the numbers this morning. I should have. I don't think we've seen a drop off in certified or licensed. I think where the dip in numbers have been is in trainees. And we had no new agencies since that same time period. I'll move on to this family style. Okay, and so here on Exhibit 8 is the exam performance. Again, this is September through November. We had 11 first-time takers, all 3 level 5 licensed, 5 certified residential, 1 certified general, 7 passed on the first time take, so that's a 64% overall rate, which is a little better than I think the national average right now. Unfortunately, if you look at it statistically, certified general failed at 100%. So I guess when you're 0 for 1, that's kind of how it works out. But that is that's where we are on the exam performance. And as you can tell, if we're going to have 11 take the exam at that period of time, that doesn't necessarily reflect application because they have up to a year to take the exam. But it does show you that we're getting a lot from reciprocity and only a handful taking the exam every month.
Move on to public forum.
Okay, we had, for public forum, we'll let, Mr. Stephen Craddock, who's president of NCPAC, has asked to speak, so I'll let him come and take the seat with the microphone over.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Stephen Wayne Craddock. Just wanted to introduce myself to you. We recently had an annual conference, and we had elections, obviously, and I was the next president in line. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about me so you know who I am and where I'm from. I am the 2023-24 president of NCPAC, also known as the North Carolina Professional Appraisers Coalition. And you may recall that I previously was the president of our organization back in 2017 and 18. And I'm again proud to serve in this position representing our members and serving the collective interest of all North Carolina appraisers. And as the name suggests, NCPAC is a North Carolina-based appraiser trade organization which was formed in 2002 and founded with the intent to encourage professional appraisal practice, and was formed as well to promote professional appraisal services. I've been a member of this fine organization since 2007. I was born in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, in the northeast corner of the state, and I currently reside in Granby, North Carolina, just across the sound from the Outer Banks. I'm a certified residential appraiser who's been appraising for almost 22 years. I was trained by my father-in-law, who was an appraiser, who was one of the first folks licensed back in 1991. I'm a certified designated member of the North Carolina Professional Appraisers Coalition and a designated member of the National Association of Realtors. On behalf of the NCPAC Board of Directors, I would like to officially thank Don Rogers, the NCAB staff, and Sharon Warren for continuing to allow us to provide the live streaming media coverage of the live meetings. I was going to bring you up to date on some of the information regarding some statistics with the live streaming. We first began live streaming live meetings on April 24, 2018. This was a huge success for the board as well as NCPAC, and honestly, it was a historic milestone for all of North Carolina appraisers. On that day and on other meeting days afterwards, we had folks from all over the country commenting about the ability to be able to watch these videos live or later on at their leisure because they're all recorded as well. And here's an update on some of the live streaming statistics. Since we began streaming the NCAB meetings in 2018, the recorded videos have had a total watch time of over 30,000 minutes. That's over 500 hours of time that folks have been watching these meetings. When we stream to Facebook and to YouTube simultaneously, and a recorded copy of all of those meetings remains there to be viewed later by persons. The percent of population who watch the videos are about equal when it comes to percentages of males versus females, and males at 49% and females at 51%. I hope the board finds this information useful and absolutely solidifies the need for recording each meeting and distributing the meetings to the public. We continue to believe it's in the best interest of the general public of North Carolina that having the streaming and recordings also promotes transparency for the board. It gives the viewers a clearer vision of what the NCAB actually does. And we at NCPAC know it's not an easy job for you board members. And many times it's a thankless job to do. So thank you again for listening, and I look forward to working with you all. And we obviously thank you for your continued support in protecting the public interest and for keeping all North Carolina appraisers informed. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Mr. Travis. Thank you all.
Okay, we can move on to discuss the revisions to the operations.
I believe have been addressed as they came about. I just wanted to, we just need to clarify putting them in the manual. So, the first one was on page 31 of the manual that talks about years of service. This brings our current vacation earnings chart consistent with what the state is. Basically, it would start at 9 hours and 20 minutes a month, and that would be the same up to year 5, where in the past there was a breaking point between year 2 and 2 to 5, but now it starts at that. So that was the only change there. Page 36, personal observance leave. That was adding a day, if you recall, it was a day adding state employees benefits, I guess, for what was the Juneteenth holiday. It was determined to be a personal observance leave for all employees, and they could choose the time that they wanted to take that. So again, we approved that last summer, but we have not put it in the manual until now. As you recall, last year we transitioned from the simplified employer pension plan SEP to a 401k plan, and this just clarifies that in the operations manual. And then finally, as you know, we have one remote investigator, and we just need to clarify that unless otherwise agreed to, an employee's duty station is located in the board office. So when we do have a remote situation, then obviously that would be in the home office or if they were operating somewhere else. So those are the changes that we saw. Also, there was one on the area conference. We've had this discussion before, but when the subcommittee was reviewing some of our documents, we had a lot of things that said if you attended at least 90% of a CE offering you credit, well, that's not allowed under the criteria, so we're amending that and say 100%. So doesn't mean you can't go to the bathroom, just means you have to be there for all of the offering. So, any questions on any of these?
Since these were already approved by the board, you don't need a motion.
Well, I would like to put them in the manual.
Do we have any questions about this? Okay, I have a motion that we amend the manual to reflect the changes. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Okay. So you have a proposed calendar for 2024. A few changes from our what we've been doing in the past year. Recently, we transitioned to 4 virtual meetings and 4 public meetings. Or in-person meetings are all public. I think that balance has worked pretty well. I think we do need the extra meetings help to move cases, but as you can tell, unless it's a special circumstance, the agenda items have been moving fairly quickly. So I think that does work well. So there was a discussion the chairman brought to my attention, and the possibility of taking one meeting of our one live meeting on the road to closer to other licensees and not just in the Raleigh area. And so we looked at that on this calendar. And then I also, after I sent out the calendar, I had some comment about possibly moving the January meeting to early February. Staff had conflicts on the 23rd and 30th of January and was not able to work with that. We had proposed the 25th, but now in looking at it, we're asked maybe look at Tuesday the 6th. That doesn't create a problem. Also, I'll go ahead and give you a heads up at this time. What we are looking at for the live, the traveling meeting, would be to do a public hearing on any proposed rule changes. As most of you know, and I think most of the people in this room know, the AQB recently adopted changes that will require us to have a pre-licensing course in fair housing and appraisal advice, and also to have continuing education in those areas. And so the board is going to have to decide how those are to be implemented and put that forward. There are a few other changes that were identified by the subcommittee that where we are, our criteria or our requirements are higher than the AQB criteria, and they asked if we take a look at that. One of these being we allow only 1 year to take the exam from the time of approval, and the criteria says we can allow 2. We don't see a reason that we would not extend that to 2. Matter of fact, it makes it just easier from a management standpoint of not having to. If you give somebody 2 years, you don't have, they can't ask for an extension or anything else. After 2 years, that's what the criteria says. That's the end. So if you get to one, like we had one, and we ended up in the pandemic, and we had problems with scheduling and things like that, and we were asked to extend, and so we were having to make sure we didn't accidentally extend past 2 because then we'd be in violation. So that's a possible rule change that we to just make it 2 years and not limit the number of takes, other than we would still, I think we would still keep the requirement you have to wait every 30 days to take it. So effectively, I guess you could take it 24 times, but I don't think anybody could argue that's not a fair number of takes to pass. So, but that's an example of maybe some other changes. But there's nothing more of the timeline of getting into the new fair housing courses, and I think there's a few tweaks to some of the AMC when they change things to their policies and procedures that we need to look at. But what we would look at is having the meeting in February and then scheduling probably at that meeting announcing a public meeting by Zoom where you would actually vote to publish the rules for comment. And so probably about 2 weeks after that, some later in February. And that would be the purpose of that meeting. We've done this one other time, is just the sole purpose of that additional meeting would be for voting on rules. Or not voting to adopt them, but voting to put them out. So, any questions on that? Or any questions on any of the other dates other than that?
Would that February 6th meeting also be virtual?
Yes, it's on schedule to be virtual. It's our next meeting.
Before we go on the calendar, I'd just like to hear from Mr. Craddock. If we're looking at possibly doing a remote or a meeting in a different location other than right here, I want to know how is that going to impact your ability to do your live streaming?
I'm sure we would find the means to travel to the location where you all would do that to make sure it was able to be done. We wouldn't have an issue traveling.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure there was nothing specific here that needed set up to do it.
No, not necessarily. This is portable. It can go anywhere. As long as we have cellular service, we can get out. Thank you.
And one of our first reach outs was possibly, and we talked to supervisor class here before, would be at Central Piedmont Community College in Charlotte. So that might be a possible location. But we were looking at maybe Charlotte, Hickory, that part of the state, it would be a little more centrally located west than centrally located east.
You'd like that? Any more questions on the proposed calendar? Is February the 6th an issue with anybody, or is anybody okay with that? Everyone amended with the February 6th date instead of the January 25th.
Yes, motion to approve has been amended.
Okay, as amended. And Mr. Ward, you, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Go on to the foundation report.
Okay, some of this information has been out a little bit to make it, this public forum. As most of you probably have heard now, Mr. Bunton, who has been at the Approach Foundation for a little over 30 years now, has announced his retirement. I saw him last week, or a couple of weeks ago at the TAFAC meeting, and he seemed to indicate he thought his departure time might be around the end of the first quarter of next year. So, but a little bit will depend on their search process. But I will say, I've known Dave my whole time as a regulator, and he's been a champion for the profession, and certainly not to have been an appraiser by trade. He's done a lot for the profession, so we wish him well in his retirement. And also just an announcement about the activities of the standard board. Obviously, the new fact has recently come out, and I mentioned the APB has worked on making fair housing education a priority, and has mandated that these changes go into effect by January 26th.
Questions? And then on to the committee report.
We had a pre-determination couple of meetings.
Yeah, so the pre-determination committee met 3 times since the board meeting on October 31st. On October 31st, directly after the board meeting, they met with Mr. Carmichael, Mr. Chase, and Mr. Morgan. They reviewed 1 application for upgrade to certified residential status. The committee determined the applicant did not meet the requirements for upgrade and advised the applicant that they need to take the necessary steps to obtain any missing requirements or apply for licensed residential status. On November 17th, the committee met again. Those in attendance were Mr. Carmichael and Mr. Chase. The board's attorney was not present during this meeting. The committee first reviewed an upgrade application for certified residential status, and then determined the applicant met the requirements for upgrade, and then advised staff to process the application. They then reviewed a request for pre-determination regarding fitness for registration. The committee requested additional information not available at the time, and the matter was tabled. The last review was regarding a reciprocity application where the applicant's fitness for registration was reviewed. They again asked for additional information that was not available, and then that matter was tabled. On November 27th, they met again to review the 2 items tabled. Those in attendance were Mr. Carmichael, Mr. Chase, and Mr. Morgan. The first items under review were an upgrade application from the November 17th. It was pointed out that this matter could not be heard as it was missing 1 document to be eligible for pre-determination, and then the matter was tabled again. The second item being reviewed was for reciprocity regarding the fitness for registration. The pre-determination committee granted the application contingent on 2 events that stipulated that both did not take place in the manner stated. The matter would be taken back to the committee for review. And the committee will meet again directly after this board meeting to review the last tabled item.
Questions? Do you have any additional committee meetings? Moving on to the staff.
All right, a few things here for you. Some of them I touched on a little earlier, but I'll, the appraisal subcommittee, as I said earlier, was here performing their compliance review, in October. They observed our virtual meeting. We have received a preliminary finding there were no issues with the appraisal program and 1 issue on the UMC side, which is an change from an agency reported late to the registry. We're preparing our written responses for the ASC, and once they're received, they will issue their findings. So, I hope it will do fairly well on our final report. I attended the Approach Foundation Advisory Council meeting in Arlington, Virginia, November 30th and December 1st. Most of the discussion is centered around the new edition of USPAP and then the new education requirements adopted by the APD. One thing that I noted when I was there, two state regulator agencies, Louisiana and West Virginia, applied for membership to state as regulatory bodies and were approved. We've operated in the past where we didn't believe that was allowed, and so pending their acknowledgement that this now changed their situation, and they able to become running a member as a board. Arrow is kind of represented as a single entity, and I was there represented for many years as Mr. Black, I believe, when he was here. So, but it is good to have a voice in the room on a lot of these advisory issues. So we'll monitor that and decide if we need to put it in an application next year. It is our understanding that these book deliveries have been made by the Approach Foundation. We are, since we are being videoed, I want to make it clear we're aware that it took longer getting out this year and it created some problems with those pre-registered for the USPAP course. The order went out from us exactly 1 week after the deadline for orders, so there was not a delay on the board part. If we do this again in the future, we will remind the president to wait until they have books in hand and in order to register for the course. We did note that we, as you know, this year there was two books required of the class, and we offered to buy both of them for appraisers at a price of $35. We had approximately 875 pairs of books ordered. That compared to the last time we had 1,790 orders, so there was a tremendous drop off. Now, I'm aware that South Carolina made the digital version available of just the USPAP manual, not the guidance, to their licensees, so they could cut down some of the orders that we would normally receive. Now, obviously, we're not complaining that people didn't order enough. We just found it a note that we had that many less that took advantage of this. And I know, like I said, we received a lot of negative publicity about the length of time it took, and I was like, when you try to do it it backfires, and that is kind of how it turned out. And we apologize for the delay, but it was all in the foundation hands at that point. So, the next training town hall will be on January 30th. Training, you'll receive an email after the holidays telling them how to register. We are still planning to have a newsletter out before the vacation, and so they'll be looking for a draft to review in the next week or so. And based on the approval of the calendar, I left the blank in here so I could put the pin in it. Our next board meeting will be virtually on February 6th. Just a reminder to everyone, board offices are closed December 25th, 6th, and 7th, and also on January 1st for Christmas and New Year's Day holidays. On behalf of the staff, on which of the board and all present, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Staff report. All right. And then at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina Junior Statute 143-318.16, and that is to consider consent orders.